in Santa Clara Valley was starting to pick up steam in the mid-1960s. Now we're in the IC age. A lot of companies said, hey, I want to get on the action. According to Don Heffler's genealogy chart, there are 16 semiconductor companies operating in the valley in 66. By 1969, there were 40. Some of the panelists know some of those companies personally because they were there at the time. Who were some of the prominent semiconductor companies in Santa Clara Valley during that time period, from 60, let's say 62 to 68, and what were they selling? Who wants to go first? David? You have to pass the mic around.
Yeah, I wasn't in the Valley in 62. I was still in college. Came a little bit later, but time of computer history.
62 to 68.
Yeah, but I'm pretty familiar with the genealogy chart that was put together by Don Heffler, and there is a version of it falling off the wall up there that's currently being prepared for placement in Mountain View at the site of the former Shockley Semiconductor Laboratory and that is being developed by the developer. But looking at that, you can see who some of those earliest companies were. Yeah, and it's all over the world anyway. But some of in alphabetical order here, you've got Melco was one of the early spin-outs of Fairchild. And had a pretty bright cast of characters. Jay Last, one of the founders of Fairchild and the guy who actually helped make the first integrated circuit, and formerly was with the Shockley Labs. Jean Hany went to Melco, and Kleiner went to Melco. Unfortunately, the funding all came from Teledyne, and Teledyne wanted them to build stuff in onesies and twosies, some very sophisticated analog circuits for their contracts. And so they never really got to start as a solid commercial company, although they stuck around for a long time. AMI was formed in that period. Bernie will tell you more about AMI later, the leader in custom MOS. And General Microelectronics, the first MOS company, was founded in 62 or 63. Molectro, a little company nobody's heard of, but that's where Bob Weidler and Dave Talbot went to start to get rich, and they got even richer when it was bought by National Semiconductor and run by Charlie Spork. Silicon and Signetics, of course, the first pure-play company in ICs, was founded in those first few years in the Valley.
Wasn't Signetics one of the first spin-offs from Fairchild?
It was the third, I think.
Third.
It was after Melco. Founded by, again, a bunch of very bright guys who had worked on the IC at
We're going to let Bernie talk next, but just as a footnote, our longtime IEEE SCV chair and officer Eddie Yoki worked at Signetics in the early to mid-1960s.
Yeah,
Bernie?
Signetics was the first company. They were controlled by Corning Glass. They gave the employees 3%. Corning Glass held 97% of the company. And they brought in one of their executives, Jim Riley, to run it, but Lionel Kattner was one of the founders, and they did the first DTL. They were a pioneer in DTL, and they were a leader for a short period of time, and pretty soon DTL was made by several other people, but they were one of the first people to make DTL logic.
Ted, when you were a research doc at Stanford evaluating IC companies, which ones in the Valley did you consider?
Well, while at Stanford, as I mentioned, we use mostly discretes, but one of the Fairchild researchers, a fellow named Rex Rice, used to come around to our lab to talk about, students that were closing out their PhD programs, getting ready to get their degrees and be looking for employment. And I always used it as an opportunity to find out what was going on in the semiconductor industry. And one of the things, and we talk about it from time to time, the progress that was being made was really impressive. And I had done some work with core memory, both in a summer job as an undergraduate and at Stanford. And it always seemed to me the one thing that would keep you from building a computer at home was memory. And it looked like semiconductor memory was getting more possible, and I would talk to Rex about it, and he'd say, well, it's not quite ready yet, but we're getting there.
Well, that's our main focus, or at least one of our main focuses in the next time period, the next epoch, which is 68 to 75.